Hello everyone, friends. Today we are going to make a bird's milk cake. I'm sure that once you make it at home just once, you'll never want to buy store-bought versions again. A detailed list of ingredients is in the description. And we'll start by making the sponge cake. Let's begin by preparing the sponge cake. Start beating the room temperature eggs in a mixer until the first foam appears. Then gradually add the sugar and increase the speed to maximum. Beat until the mixture becomes fluffy. Now add the flour, salt, and for flavor some lemon zest. Of course, the lemon is optional, so add it if you like. Gently but thoroughly mix so that any lumps of flour dissolve into the eggs. At the end, add melted but cooled butter. Mix everything together. I've prepared the baking pan and wrapped it in foil. It's about 19 centimeters in diameter. I'm gonna make the sponge cake a little bigger now, so I can trim off the browned edges later, but that's optional. Pour the sponge cake batter into the pan. And from the center to the edges, I spread the batter with movements like this. I do this so that my sponge cake turns out more even, so there won't be a bump in the center. I put it in an oven preheated to 180 degrees for 20 minutes. I check for doneness with a skewer. I let the sponge cake cool completely. You've probably already noticed my new handsome helper, planetary mixer. The planetary mixer has a power of 1600 watts, 6 speeds, and an additional pulse mode. The mixer is quite compact. It has a low noise level and you can load up to 1.5 kilograms of ingredients at once. The mixer is equipped with convenient rubberized feet, which makes it more stable. The stainless steel bowl, with a capacity of 5.5 liters, has a convenient shape, which allows you to whip even a small amount of ingredients. The bowl also has a comfortable handle. The set includes 3 different all-metal attachments. A whisk for whipping egg whites and cream, and a spatula. With its help, you can, for example, mix cream or prepare puree, and there is also a hook for kneading dough or ground meat. A plastic protective lid for loading ingredients. And as a gift, the manufacturer included a beautiful red spatula, which is also very nice. All the attachments are very easy to secure. The speed control knob is equipped with a colored backlight. The mixer is very easy to use. It has a beautiful design and an incredibly beautiful color. You can buy a mixer in this wonderful color by following the link in the description. Let's make the soaking syrup. I wanted to make it a bit tangy, so I decided to add some lemon juice. I dissolve the sugar in hot water, add lemon juice, and mix well. The sponge cake has completely cooled, so I want to trim the edges and the top to remove the browned crust. This way, the cake will look neater and prettier when sliced. This step is not necessary. If you don't want to trim the edges, I recommend placing the top of the sponge cake face down and the side that was on the bottom during baking on top. It's more porous and will soak up our syrup better. Before making the soufflé, you need to prepare everything because agar stabilizes already at 40 degrees. That's why I wrap the mold with acetate film. Place the sponge cake at the bottom and soak it well with lemon syrup. Now let's prepare the buttery part of the soufflé. For this, I transfer the room temperature butter into the mixing bowl. The butter should be of very high quality as the taste of the cake will depend on it. I add the condensed milk. Make sure to use one with a good composition as well, and mix everything with the paddle attachment until smooth. We don't need to whip the cream, just mix until the ingredients are combined. For now, let's set the cream aside and move on to the syrup. For this, we mix sugar, water, and agar-agar. Agar-agar is a plant-based gelling agent. It cannot be substituted with gelatin. I'm using agar with a strength of 900. If you buy agar not in a confectionery store, but in a regular grocery store, be sure to check the ingredients. The only ingredient should be agar. The mixing bowl and whisk need to be washed and dried very well. otherwise the egg whites won't whip up. Pour the egg white into the mixing bowl, add a pinch of citric acid for stability, and start whipping. At the same time, cook the syrup. It's very convenient to make this cake with a stand mixer because while the egg whites are whipping on their own, we can focus on the syrup. You need to stir it constantly so the syrup doesn't burn on the bottom of the saucepan. I also recommend using a saucepan with a thick bottom. I set the timer and cooked the syrup for about 4 minutes. We checked the syrup for the thread stage. It should pour continuously from the spatula. My syrup is ready. Look at its consistency. The egg whites are also well whipped and the mixture has increased in volume. After pouring in the syrup, whip for another minute and then add the cream in batches. The soufflé becomes more liquid. That's exactly how it should be. Fold in the cream and turn off the mixer. You shouldn't whip it for too long. Quickly pour the soufflé onto the cake layer, spread it out, and leave it to set for 2 to 3 hours. Actually, the cake sets much faster because, as I mentioned earlier, agar sets already at 40 degrees. But I still recommend keeping it in the fridge for an hour or two. We remove the acetate film and make the chocolate glaze. For this, we will need dark chocolate and 33% cream. I heat the cream until it's very hot, about 80 degrees. You don't need to boil them. I add the chocolate, leave it for a couple of minutes, then mix until smooth and pour it into a bag. Let's cool the ganache a little so our drips look beautiful.
And we apply the ganache.
Decorate as you wish. I thought berries would be perfect here. And I also diluted the condurin in alcohol. Now I'm splattering it chaotically over the cake with a brush. Basically, you can already eat this cake now, but I'll leave it in the fridge for just half an hour so the ganache sets. Creamy soufflé, the softest sponge cake with hints of lemon and a dark chocolate ganache. It's a very balanced, delicate cake. Write in the comments if you like this cake. Maybe you're a fan of candies. I used to love candies, especially Petiche Moloko with lemon filling. Those were always my choice. As always, I remind you to check the description under the video. You'll find the links there. My other video recipes, and there you'll also find a link to my Instagram. I'm waiting for all of you there and there. There will be a detailed list of the ingredients we used today. I'll see you in the comments and in the next videos. That's all from me for today. Yours, Sasha. Bye-bye.